Okay, hi guys, and welcome to part 2 of my little mini series on the Rolex Explorer. If you missed part 1, I'll leave a link there. That discussed my likes, my loves, its pop culture and historic fame, all that good stuff. Today I'm discussing why my love has faded a little bit, my dislikes, and at the end I'll reveal if it's staying or leaving my collection.
Gentry shall never surrender.
I simply stir this music.
All right, Red, anytime you want.
Happiness is the smell of a new car. Bond. James Bond.
You expect me to talk?
No, darling. I expect you to die.
Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. I am in Germany. That is the Black Forest. You might remember I came here a year ago. I've actually returned for a bit of work, some of the stuff I do outside of the channel. I was in Switzerland actually earlier. You will see some footage of me in Zurich. I would say YouTube is now probably 40% and then 60% working as a consultant, designing watches, helping with social media, all kinds of stuff, really cool stuff. So that's why I'm here. This video is kind of shot a bit in New York, a bit in Philadelphia, a bit here in Germany. I'm gonna hike that mountain later. It doesn't look that big, but trust me, it's quite high up as well. And in fact, at the top of it, it was snowing a few days ago, but here it's beautifully idyllic. Anyway, wristwatch check, Panerai on the Wrist Candy Watch Club, of course, but I'll change to the Explorer shortly. The first big issue I have with the Explorer is something I like to call the One Watch Delusion. Every so often in our watch collecting journey, we come across watches that achieve the very pinnacle in what they should aspire to make us feel. They complete us in such a way they not only compel us to wear it over everything else, but also ultimately leading to the inevitable and rather liberating ruminations on being done with the perpetual Ouroboros of hunting for the next Grail watch, or as one of my intellectual watch gods, Jeff McMahon, says, getting off the hamster wheel of crazy.
I call it the Mount Olympus effect. When Prometheus climbs up Mount Olympus and he brings back luxury watches to us mortals, these watches have a beautiful quality to them. They don't look like they were ever created. They look like they were always there. Kind of like the artist. Sometimes a songwriter will say, I don't even know if I wrote the song. I was just a conduit for a song that always existed. I feel that the best watches have that quality to them.
Like my grandfather, GHW, you see in the standard intro of my videos, I use my initials of TGV. It saves the non-Italian speakers the embarrassing indignity of butchering my name. By the way, it's Tristano Jeffrey Michele Veneto. But TGV also stands for something else, an idea. Who I am, but yet who I strive to be. But not in some cheesy Kaiser Soze or Tyler Durden-esque duality for nefarious intentions, or a Bruce Wayne and Batman dichotomy to conceal vigilante ambitions. It's just a simple, personally aspirational, autodidactic ideal, a reminder to always work on self-improving, resisting Dionysian tendencies or destructive bad habits, more so in the spirit of Albert Einstein's mantra of education being constant and only stopping when one perishes. A self-reliant warrior in the never-ending war that is life itself, a way of thinking and being I only wish I started earlier in life. Anyway, I'm starting to get a little bit existential here, so let's dial it back a bit. Interestingly, it's similar thinking as the psychological literary device that Ian Fleming employed in his Bondian mould, left deliberately vacuous, not out of ignorance, but so you could more easily project yourself into the role and live vicariously through it, unlike the more fleshed out and detailed descriptions of the villains. The hero's journey trope is repeated endlessly because it works no matter the genre. From the mythological divinity of Theseus and the Minotaur to Yojimbo's nameless wandering Ronin in Kurosawa's classic, the French neo-noir Melville concocted coolness of Alain Delon, or the many sneering Wild West manifestations of Clint Eastwood. We all have a natural predilection for these stories, and in doing so, the katana or lightsaber, or maybe a certain iconic pistol, but for us watch nerds, it's obviously the timepiece that accompanies them on this transformative challenge from call to action to triumphant return that becomes massively important. I think deep down we all wish we had that one trusty do-it-all watch that is always with us on those momentous occasions in life that defines us, the hero's piece or timepiece, you could say. It happens that I don't think there is such a thing as a perfect timepiece or a perfect watch. There are moments when it comes close, and the Explorer is one of the first timepieces that really made me feel like that I didn't need anything else. Some people are just born into themselves like a well-tailored Savile Row suit, while some never get to understand, appreciate or actualize their full potential, or worse, see themselves not how they are or should be in the stoic Aurelian humble sense, but a deleterious, delusional, pop idol contestant view of themselves.
I wanna feel the heat with somebody. Yeah, I wanna dance with somebody who loves me.
What were you doing with the telephone?
I was seeing the lyrics of the song.
Could you actually read them?
Yes.
Now, I'm sure you know what I mean. All those cretini that think they can sing but sound like some kind of cat being waterboarded. A kind of Neil Breen fallacy that is often comical, tragic, or both. The main ingredient in Schadenfreude cringe porn.
I'm not ready for this! I can't believe you committed suicide. I cannot believe you committed suicide. How could you have done this? How could you have committed suicide?
That type of thinking can often lead to the wrong choice of watch. A form of performative cosplay, if you will. The darker side of the hero watch or One Watch Delusion. For example, me trying to be like an Apollonian Stallone or Arnie action star with a 47mm Panerai Luminor submersible would look as stupid as Michael Myers in a tutu. I'm just not built like that, and never desire to be. Therefore, I know my limits, and my 40mm Luminor is just right. These mythical bonds to watches are then compounded by our deep-seated biological tendency for superstition. Butch Coolidge's gold watch narrative, played by Bruce Willis, he accidentally leaves at home in Pulp Fiction, is the perfect example. A watch so sentimentally significant, beyond monetary value, it's worth risking death via Jules and Vincent to retrieve.
In one place he knew he could hide something, his ass. 5 long years he wore this watch up his ass. He died of dysentery. I hid this uncomfortable hunk of metal up my ass 2 years.
Now this all sounds great, but the problem is, the one watch to rule them all is most often a fallacy. Few ever reach it. Most of us enthusiasts are horologically promiscuous, because unlike in life, having a harem of stunning beauties all in different flavors is actually possible with our watches. So the madness continues. Just don't make my mistake and be too hasty to sell watches that have been pushed to the side while you're in that euphoric, bed-breaking honeymoon phase. Seller's remorse is the bastard offspring of the hero watch, a villain in the making to our horological paladin. I think on some level we all wish we had a deep romantic connection to something tangible. And sometimes the stars do align, Like my Panerai, for example, anniversary trip back to Florence, to where I once lived. It was a very emotionally charged, important trip. You know, over 20 years I hadn't been there. Now I've bonded with that watch. I never expected that to happen. You can't really manufacture that. You know, you can't anticipate it. It just happens. Alright, I think I need to start heading back now. I haven't seen any humans for about 2 hours now. And I'm starting to see why they call it the Black Forest. I mean, it is beautiful, but it's beautiful and slightly terrifying at the same time. I have a compass as well because the phones do not work here. So if you get lost, you are on your own. Benchmade, a camera, a Rolex Explorer, and a compass. That's what I got. But I think if you're used to the urban environment, this could be quite disconcerting. Then again, I think if you're from here, you'd probably find the urban environment quite disconcerting, you know. We've detailed the evolution of the Explorer many times, so to cut a long story short, the 1016 represented the most significant step in clarifying the design and functionality of the Explorer. It was introduced in 1960 and ran until 1989, making it one of the longest running Rolex models of all time. Upgraded to 100 meters of water resistance with a 36mm case and screw-down crown, it finally had a hackable movement with the later 1570 movements that debuted in 1965. This particular example has the short-lived predecessor, the transitional automatic 1560, sadly without the hacking. But what makes up for it is, most notably, it's from before the change of gilt and glossy dials to the more tool-tastic matte finish with crisp white print that occurred from 1967 onwards. This tropicalized example, generously lent in from the USA's oldest and most prestigious authorized dealer, Shreve, Crump Low, is referred to as the underline dial, named after that simple tiny dash above the 6 and below the COSC text that references the twin lock crown dash. This dial configuration, along with the outer printed ring connecting the hash marks, makes it not just rare but extremely rare. The kind of minutiae that deep-pocketed collectors absolutely lap up. Which, I guess, brings me on to my second big dislike of the Explorer, the insane prices on such a simple watch that, let's be honest, is also extremely dated. Brings back memories being here, I really enjoy it. And it's funny, when I used to walk the dog around here, if you would have told me I'd come back 10 years later with a 1016 on my wrist, I would have thought you were crazy. Am I going to be really insane and pull the trigger? Is this a sign? Yeah, it is a sign. So you're enabling me, JD is enabling me to buy it. I'm definitely going to get a divorce then if that happens. 1016 on my wife, I think that's the decision. Well, I'm going to stick with my wife, sorry. Amore mio. What's worse is, practically speaking, they are glare magnets, especially with more heavily patinaed dials. Even on the overcast day, I was shooting outside in New York. Admittedly, experiencing this watch, that was also once a Grail watch, was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. It has, however, taught me a big lesson. In discussing this watch with my friend JD, a fellow Explorer owner, I might add, siamo Explorer fratelli, he reminded me of the simple, indisputable fact that this item, irrelevant of the cost, will never be made again, and it's a piece of design evolutionary history of one of the greatest Rolex watches ever made. This subsequently made me realize that eventually my own 14270, that's also been long discontinued, and improved greatly upon with its vastly superior successors that I also reviewed, will one day be just as massively inflated in price. Of course not as rare as an underlying 1016, but certainly beyond the price that the sane part of my brain is comfortable with. Who knows, the unloomed 3, 6 and 9 that bothers so many about this reference might one day be seen just as charmingly desirable as the unnecessary line that makes this 1016 so rare. So glad this is water resistant. Following my recent controversial video on this year's Watches and Wonders fiasco, a viewer commented on how I've become increasingly bitter in recent years. Ironically, that comment on a video entitled How I Found Happiness in Watches. But just like most things in life, it's not as black and white as a monochromatic explorer. The truth is in a shade of stainless steel grey, somewhere in the middle. After all, on a deeper psychological level, that is one of the main reasons the uncluttered, straightforward unpretentiousness of the explorer is so appealing. In an ever more complex, convoluted and confusingly manipulated world, the explorer never lies, unless it's dead. Only the wearer can be a prevaricator, and here is where my third big dislike begins.
Ugh, trust the humans to muck it all up. Positively, awfully, frightfully ghastly.
We're about halfway up the mountain. It's tougher than I thought, but anyway, I wanted to make this point abundantly clear that my love for watches has not soured in the least. In fact, actually, I've never been happier in my personal collecting journey. What is disappointing me, the way the hype culture has kind of polluted the watch industry, especially on social media. This kind of frenzy that started in the COVID era and is kind of continuing. The bubble is bursting a little bit, it's deflating a little bit, but I just think it's toxified the way we talk about watches, the chasing of sensationalism, you know, like all of that stuff. I wanted to make that distinction. I'm going to carry on, get to the top of this mountain. The Explorer sadly has not escaped contamination, and I have identified its two main enemies. The first is the unscrupulous watch publications and manufactured industry plant YouTubers. With the watch media world being so small, it's mainly run by the same little elitist crowd that sadly gatekeep the industry, like a kind of horological Illuminati. They are a self-reliant in-house producer of hype, who after creating it, turn around to profit on it via their own watch stores. Insidiously genius if you think about it, but I don't partake in drinking that particular parasitic, putrid Kool-Aid. They know it, and it scares them. Like I said in my previous video, I am more akin to Colonel Kurtz, out there, unaccountable to anybody, and very happy doing my own thing the way it should be done.
You're an errand boy, sent by grocery clerks.
The worst of them have even become authorized dealers for watch brands with fake reviews. A travesty even beyond the pay-to-play driven derivative corporate shilling articles of before. And suddenly, the no-frills Explorer is the second coming for them. And I know what you're going to say, oh, TGV, you're better than that, letting the opinions of others affect your love for things. Well, I'm not a machine. I can't simply turn feelings off like I'm some host in Westworld. Good show, by the way. Then there's the second enemy of the Explorer, more to do with the Rolex brand itself. It's no secret I'm not a fan either of the Ponzi scheme grifters, or culturally and morally bankrupt grey market used car dealer types, who have just as annoyingly infected YouTube with their lowest common denominator speculator content.
This is the most obnoxious group of money-hungry, low IQ, high-energy, jackrabbit, wannabe, big-time, small-time, talking, bothersome, irritating bunch of motherfuckers. I have ever had to endure for more than 5 minutes.
Thankfully, this latter explorer enemy is only defined by money, and while just as classless as the previous, they haven't jumped on the explorer bandwagon just yet. This is mainly due to it being the demure antithesis of the blingy, status symbol flexing Las Vegas vulgarities they prefer to flip. And I adore Las Vegas. I'm just using it descriptively there. The Explorer and Milgauss remain the most loyal to the original core philosophy of a true premium quality tool watch, and not the new money cliched commodity the brand has become in recent years. Now, Rolex is not innocent either. Their recent solid gold Sea Dweller proved they are just as complicit in avariciously vulgarizing their own most utilitarian built-for-purpose instruments. Therefore, Explorer prices have become just as ludicrous simply for being part of the world's most hyped-up brand of all time. But I'm not naive like a Howard Beale screaming at the world. It's the nature of business, I get it, and business is a-booming.
The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business.
And you will atone! It's Ned Beatty from Network. For Christ's sakes, guys.
The world is a business, Mr. Beale. It has been since man crawled out of the slime.
But what saddens me is the once unwanted Rolex that felt like a forgotten connoisseur's choice 10 years ago, when Rolex still had a semblance of class, ironically has become an overpriced hipster icon everyone seems to own. I almost wish the Explorer wasn't a Rolex, but would I love it so much? And has it become as ubiquitous as the Submariner? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
But there's more to mechanical watches than just nostalgia. Nassim Nicholas Taleb, who brought this economic idea called the Lindy Effect into popular discourse. And of course the Lindy Effect is basically the longer that something's around, the longer it's probably going to stay around. It's more useful. A good example of this are books, language. Timekeeping has existed since the dawn of civilization, but the wristwatch has existed in some form or another since the 14th century. It's clear that wristwatches still have a ton of both cultural and use value.
So this unassuming little 35mm Nivada Grenchen, this is the Antarctic. Now, I unboxed it, a special episode on the Urban Gentry Instagram, do check it out. I'm due to review it in the coming months, and just goes to show you the kind of strepitoso watches available today that seriously give the Explorer a run for its money. Releases like this, when I first got into this style of discreet but elegant tool watch hybrids, simply didn't exist 10 years ago. I look at its faithful period-correct size and the updated splendor of superior modern materials and think, wow, I could flip the Explorer, buy this and actually go on an adventure of a lifetime with the extra cash, climb my own Mount Everest. If you are like me and not blessed with mummy and daddy's trust fund baby money, this is undoubtedly a big negative aspect of Rolex's value appreciation. I mean, if I sold it now, I doubt I'd ever be comfortable with paying the asking price to buy it back. But on the flip side, good luck trying to pawn off a Nivada Grenchen when you need money fast or potentially in a deadly pickle, like the iconic scene in the excellent movie Marathon Man, as Dustin Hoffman's character trades his Rolex GMT to quickly escape danger. We have reached the top, and the view is spectacular. That flat piece of land there, the Rhine River goes down there, and then the mountains behind that is France, believe it or not. The resort where I was staying is all the way down there. I don't even know if you can see it, and of course the church behind me that just sticks out at the top. Am I keeping the Explorer? Yeah, I think so. I think so. It's funny, I've had a kind of second honeymoon wearing it here, and now I've got another memory attached to it. Sorry about the wind. Obviously, if I had DuckTales money, I would buy the Shreve Crump Low, that 1016. I would lap it up. Okay guys, I'm going to leave it there. What a fitting place to end the video. Please don't forget to like this video, especially if you want to see more free and independent content like this. It's the best way to support the channel. I'm going to leave you with this incredible, meraviglioso view here, and I will catch you in the next one. Onwards and upwards. Ciao.